Madam Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Sailors.
make a motion that we accept the administration's recommendation for personnel appointments as presented.
Motion and a second. Are there any questions? If there are any questions, we will need to go into executive session. I'll need a motion to go into executive session since it's personnel. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Bush. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I move we adjourn this special call meeting.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned, and we will come back together at 9 o'clock. That was very efficient.
If you move the committee of the whole along just as well.
Wouldn't that be great?
Good morning. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting for June. Our first item, the first item on our agenda this morning is the minutes from the Committee of the Whole, is our consent calendar. Mr. Sailors,
I move to accept the consent calendar.
a motion, is there,
Second.
and a second? Is there any discussion or any amendments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. The consent calendar stands approved. There's not anybody to introduce this morning, is there?
Oh, no, ma'am, they will be here
At
for
the
the board
meeting?
meeting.
Oh, great. All right, the next item is appearance of visitors. We have one visitor that's here to see us this morning, and it is Michael Arsenia. I'm going to have our Vice Chair, Dr. Stiles, read the policy on visitors this morning, right before you start. Thank you.
Thank you. As each speaker's name is called, he or she should proceed to the podium at the end of the board dais where there is a microphone and light system. Each speaker has up to 3 minutes to speak to the board. The light system will be green for the first 2 minutes and will turn yellow when 1 minute remains on the speaker's allotted time. In keeping with board policy KCA, abusive language or personal attacks aimed at students or staff members will not be permitted. All speakers are expected to behave in an orderly and respectful manner. The board will not engage in discussion with the speaker or respond to comments. The superintendent will designate a member of the staff to respond to each speaker in an appropriate and timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, my name is Michael Arciniega. I am the Regional Director of Development for Communities and Schools of South Carolina. And I wanted to come up this morning and say thank you. Thank you for allowing us to work in 10 schools in the upstate, serving 7,000 students, 700 of which providing critical needs case management to. A special thank you to those who were able to come out to some of our events, either the Partnership Appreciation event or our program tour. It really does warm my heart when I see you all out there in the community, and I can't imagine how hard you work, not just here, but out there as well. I am looking forward to next year, where our partnership can continue to grow and blossom. I hope you all have a great summer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Arsenia. Our next item, we're going to go into the instruction portion of our meeting, and that is with Ms. Morrison Fair. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bush. Section 3.01, expanding the, Greenville County School Teacher Pipeline. Today, we look forward to a presentation by Mr. Jeff McCoy, Ms. Karen Kapp, Ms. Elizabeth House, and Ms. Candace Moore. And before they start, I would just like to say, this will give our public an opportunity to walk in the shoes of those individuals who have dedicated their lives to developing young minds. We just witnessed the graduation of 2023 students, and that did not happen by accident. It happened because of the dedication of our staff and our teachers, who spend countless hours in professional development, making sure that we have the best there is to offer in Greenville County. At this time, I'd also like to shout out to our public partners that support our efforts in Greenville County, and I'll just mention a few: our PEP and our Greenville Education Association. So with that being said, I would like to turn it over to Mr. McCoy, but before that, I'd like for Dr. Royster to make comments if he would like to.
Thank you, Ms. Morrison Fair. One of the impetus for doing this presentation today, Ms. Goodwin Cowile had shared with me that she had a conference that she had attended where they had presented some alternative forms of teacher certification or moving employees to become teachers. And I realized at that point that it had been a while, and generally we've done this in isolation, but it'd been a while since we've done it at all, talking about the programs that we have in place, the ones already underway, the ones that we are in the process of initiating to enhance and improve our teacher pipeline. So that's the presentation this morning, how we're moving or providing some opportunities for employees that don't have a four-year degree to move through a pathway to become a teacher. Some of the common pathways that you're already aware of, where people who have degrees in other areas, we move them into certification to become a teacher. The pathways that we're working on to increase the number of persons that are certified to be school counselors. But in general, the numerous efforts we have underway to address the shortage, which is reaching a critical point across the country, across the region, across our state, and obviously affecting us, a shortage of qualified, quality candidates for teaching positions. One of the things that when you talk with our principals, they will share about their search for teachers, they're still able to get quality candidates. But what you'll hear them talk about is several years ago, they had this many to choose from. They had 8 or 10 quality candidates. Now they're fortunate in a job that they might have a couple of quality candidates to choose from. And in some cases, they may really have only one quality candidate to select from. So we're working as quickly as we can in concert with partners at the higher ed level to try to ensure that we're building a greater pool of quality candidates for our teaching jobs, and also in some cases to do some postgraduate work with teachers and to encourage that, which helps to increase our retention of teachers because it causes them to get to a higher salary level. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. McCoy, who's going to drive this presentation, and we'll hear about all those things that we're doing to increase our pool of quality candidates. Mr. McCoy.
Royster, good morning. As Dr. Royster mentioned, we've got several people here this is an effort across multiple departments, academics and professional learning. So we've got several people here to talk about their areas of expertise and what we're doing in the various areas for increasing in our teacher pipeline. So just a couple statistics. Dr. Royster kind of set this up a little bit already, but as you all know, in our strategic plan, we have a performance goal that 100% of our classrooms will have a highly qualified teacher on the first day of school. That's been for the last 6-7 years, has always been our goal, is to have those fully staffed with highly qualified teachers. So some of the challenges, and this is some data around both the national level as well, but between 2010 and 18, this data is it gets a little behind because the federal government runs it, so it can be several years off by the time we get the updated data. But between 10 and 18, we've seen a decline of 33% in students enrolling in teacher preparations in colleges, and we are certainly, as Dr. Royster mentioned, we are certainly feeling that like every district around the country as far as not having the pool of candidates that we used to have when hiring. And also in the area of diversity, 25% fewer African-American and Hispanic teacher candidates enrolling in teacher prep programs, which is critical, as the research would say, that students have access to teachers who look like them and who represent them as well. And then also, Greenville being a large county, but most teachers do choose to work within 15 miles of their home as well, which can be limiting for certain schools, depending on where they're located, rural, or in certain areas of the county. And in 2023, SREB, our Southern Regional Board Education Boards, this is a little bit more updated numbers here. A 1920 national turnover rate was 45% among teachers within 5 years of entry into the profession. So within 5 years, about a 45% turnover rate. Again, that's 2019-20 data. We wouldn't have the most current data because it is federally run. And then a projection that early career turnover would reach 56% by the year of 2030. So well over half those teachers turning over within 5 years. So the experience in GCS, so just bringing that a little bit closer to home, the whole point of why we're building pipelines and building coaching opportunities for teachers is to be able to retain those teachers. So we don't have quite the statistics we shared nationally on the previous page. So Sarah, as you all know, the Center for Education Recruitment and Retention, this is with 686, as you see the number up there, of teachers leaving Greenville County. 38% of those left through retirement. So this is, again, last year's data, 21-22. 38% left through retirement, dismissal, or transfer, and that could be to another state or another district within South Carolina. 56% of those were early career teachers, again, leaving within 5 years of the profession, entering the profession. And so in fall of 22, last fall, we hired 731 new teachers and instructional service professionals, and that you can see that below who's included in that instructional personnel, that staff there, teachers, that's okay. Teachers, interventionists, school counselors, media specialists, and language pathologists. Of 124 of those 731 teachers, about 17% actually were through our traditional teacher prep programs, which many of us, or most of us maybe that were in the room here, would have gone through. 102 or 14% who entered the profession, almost equal to the number above, did it through an alternative role or alternative route. So we're going to talk about several alternative routes we have in place today. And then 505 of those teachers were new to GCS but weren't new to the profession. So they were experienced teachers coming in from other districts, coming in from other states. They were not in the new teacher category. They had experience as well. So we're going to start off by talking about, which we have in the past, but just to give some updates about the GATE program with Dr. Moore.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Candace Moore, and I coordinate the GATE program for the district. So for the next few minutes, just going to give you some context around GATE and what's happening. GATE, as you may know, is the first district-embedded alternative certification program in the state of South Carolina. We take folks with a bachelor's degree and a desire to teach, and pair with that some rigorous training and pedagogy, place these teachers in the classroom to ensure their success as they transition from a different career to the classroom. They are employed as full-time teachers in Greenville County schools. It's a 3-year program, which leads to full professional South Carolina teaching certification upon completion. I would say one of the highlights of the program, one of the drivers of its success, is the 5-member individualized teacher support team, which is led by the GATE coach, who we hire hourly to go into classrooms with these new teachers and help them figure out how to teach in context. The other members of the team, the coordinator, I serve on the team, and then the other 3 are school-based. So you have the school-based mentor, an administrator, and the instructional coach all serve on the team. They're all kept on the same page by that GATE coach and really focus on, and they're centered around that teacher success. The programmatic elements that we provide are developed and implemented in collaboration with our academics team and our special education department. This is a snapshot of what a GATE teacher would experience over the course of the 3-year program. Year 1 begins in the summer. This year, it begins July 10th. So it begins with the 3-week GATE Summer Institute. The last week of that institute is the Induction Institute, where all first-year teachers new to Greenville County come and participate in district-specific professional development. So we begin in the summer with our 3-week institute, and then the learning doesn't stop there. The formal learning doesn't stop there. So we continue to meet as a cohort in the fall and in the spring, 2 seminars each semester, 2 in the fall, 2 in the spring. We also offer a learning lab where GATE teachers have the opportunity to go into the classrooms of master teachers and observe their instruction. So the focus of the first learning lab is general pedagogical knowledge. How is this classroom running? What does this classroom management system look like? In the spring, it gets a little more focused and we move into content-specific pedagogy. So how do I utilize tools and strategies to teach my content area well? So learning labs are offered in the fall and the spring. Again, I'm brought back to that teacher support team, which I mentioned as a highlight and a driver of success. Most of the learning about teaching happens within that team, within the classroom. So we have folks going in alongside the GATE teacher in the classroom on a weekly basis, and that person is there to help move their practice forward. At the end of the first year, going into year 2, GATE teachers take the first of 2 required graduate level courses offered in the program. The first course is the educational psychology course. That prepares them to take and pass the Principles of Learning and Teaching exam, which is the second and final praxis exam that they need for professional certification. You'll see the fall and spring of year 2 looks a lot like year 1. That support team that I mentioned in year 1 remains intact for year 2. So they're continuing to get that support that is developed in the classroom around their specific needs. In the spring of year 2, they take the second of the graduate level courses that a GATE teacher takes. It's a formative assessment course, and that course happens also in their classrooms with their students. So they're getting real hands-on, authentic learning experiences there. You can see year 3 is when they participate in their formal evaluation. So they go through formal evaluation just like any other teacher. It's just basically delayed 1 year to give them 2 years to really deepen their learning in the classroom, and evaluated year 3. After they complete all requirements you see there, they will advance to a professional South Carolina teacher certificate. GATE is growing. One of the ways that we measure growth through GATE is by our certification area offerings. When we started in the 16-17 school year with cohort 1, we offered 4 certification areas: middle level math, middle level science, secondary math, secondary science. So 4 separate certification areas. You can see we remained with the 4, kept with the 4 for cohort 2, added world languages, French and Spanish in cohort 3, kept those same certification areas through cohort 4, and then every year since then we've added at least 1 certification area. So for cohort 5, we rounded out our offerings to offer all core content areas: middle level social studies and ELA, secondary social studies and ELA. For cohort 6, we added business. This most recent group that just finished their first year of teaching, there were special education teachers in the mix. And for cohort 8, which is what we're hiring for to begin next month, we have added early childhood and elementary to our offerings. Yes. Another sign of GATE growth is just the size of our cohorts. For the very first cohort, we had 10 participants. Across cohorts 2, 3, and 4, and into 5, we really ranged from 18 to 22-ish, kind of held steady there for a while. Those were also COVID years. And then most recently, with the last few cohorts, we've really seen an exponential increase. Our most recent cohort, cohort 7, we had 71 participants. This morning when I checked for cohort 8, which is what we're hiring for next year, we've hired 69 with about 3.5 weeks left for principals to hire. So definitely tracking to have another largest cohort for cohort 8. You'll see on the right, another sign of growth is highlighted in this graphic, which represents the number of induction teachers and interventionists hired for last school year, the 22-23 school year. Of those, 55% were traditionally trained. 31% of those were GATE teachers. So 31% of our induction class teachers were GATE teachers. And then the remaining 14% were coming to us through other alternative pathways. Another important measure of success is retention, which you'll see here. There's several points I'd like for you to take away from this slide. I'll start by saying teacher retention is often reported based on the years of experience a teacher has in the profession. Jeff McCoy alluded to it earlier. You may have heard the term, or you may have caught the term when he said it, early career teachers. That's any teacher with 5 or less years of experience. So the 3 cohorts on the left side of the slide are the cohorts who have had at least 5 years of experience in the classroom. So we measured their retention rate at the 5-year mark to determine how many of our GATE teachers were retained in each cohort once they completed their early career phase in the profession. You can see the first 3 cohorts, again, the 3 on the left, ranged from about 40 to 60% retention at the 5-year mark. And what we learned from those years, those early years, is the programmatic structure and support offered really needed to be a little more well-defined. So as a result, we've been able to implement some substantive changes to the program, things like increasing the amount of time coaches spend in the classroom alongside that teacher, offering coach training, and most recently, increasing coach pay really allows us to offer top-notch support for those GATE teachers that's instrumental in the development and their retention as a GATE teacher. You'll see that the later cohorts, so the ones toward the right side of the screen, are currently tracking to match or exceed the 60% retention rate, in large part due to the financial and human resources that we've allocated to GATE over the past 3 years. So thank you all for that. The last takeaway I'd like to highlight from this slide takes us back to our definition of early career teacher. If you remember, early career, anyone with 5 years or less experience in teaching. At this point, our early career retention rate, so cohorts 3 through 7, is at 80%, which is something that's really amazing and something that we should really be proud of. This graph represents the total number of teachers hired through an alternative certification pathway for the 22-23 school year. I'll just say it's likely that the number of GATE teachers will continue to represent the majority of all alternative certification teachers hired in the district, especially as we continue to add areas. So we could listen to my voice all morning long, but I believe that you will enjoy hearing the voices of GATE participants. So I'd like to introduce to you Chelsea Hunter and Bennett Dean, 2 GATE teachers at League Academy.
I am Chelsea Hunter. This is my first year of teaching. I teach 7th grade geography.
I'm Bennett Dean. Just finished my 2nd year teaching. I'm an 8th grade science teacher at League Academy.
My role is to inspire kids academically and socially and give them a couple life lessons at the same time.
The students, it feels like the obvious answer, but just building those relationships from the beginning of the year to the end of the year.
I heard about GATE when I was on the job board online and I saw an advertisement on the district website as well.
So I graduated from Furman in 2021, found out about the GATE program, did the Summer Institute, and kind of jumped right in.
I was like, okay, I can get my official licensure, I have the experience. They may have me teach social studies in middle school, which is kind of higher than I'm used to, but I was like, I can do it.
There's a 3-week, really intensive, everyday study with the other GATE teachers. They'd bring in lecturers. I can remember practice sessions where we be in a small group and we'd practice saying, all right, class, we're going to come in, take your seats.
They bring in different people, coaches, assistant principals. They talk to you about classroom management. They help you go through the first couple weeks of school, how you want to set up everything, the tips and tricks on how to survive.
Probably the biggest help for me has been my gate coach. It's funny, she was actually a science teacher at League in this exact room.
She came at least twice a week, you know, for the first couple months of school, and she's very consistent, giving me feedback.
I've already recommended it to probably 5 of my friends. I thought I had heard good things, and it's been even better than what I thought.
Even if you're thinking of doing GATE, I believe that you should go for it.
Thank you, Candace. So I am going to share with you a bit about additional Grow Your Own initiatives in Greenville County Schools. We recently reinstated a tuition reimbursement program. We had this in years past, had funding for it, and in the fall of 2022, found some funding again, and we actually now reimburse half the cost of degree coursework for educator certification. Funds are available to our employees at up to $700 per course and 4 courses per year. A classified employee might be seeking a first-time bachelor's degree or master's degree. And if they are seeking that bachelor's degree, they are eligible if they have already 2 years of that bachelor's program completed. Certified teachers are seeking first-time master's degrees, and anyone going through this program with this support makes a 3-year commitment to our school district. You'll see to the right the certification programs that are included in this offer, certainly our core academic programs and programs in which we know we have a critical need. Since the fall of last school year, we've reimbursed over $92,000 for 170 classes. 9 classified employees are working towards their bachelor's or master's degree and initial teacher certification, and another 55 certified teachers are seeking master's degrees. So you will see the appreciation expressed by several of the folks engaged in the tuition reimbursement program. You will see not only the relief at the funding support, but you will see a depth of thank you there. And I want you to hear from Paula Valencia of Duncan Chapel Elementary School and how she is progressing.
My name is Paula Valencia. I've worked at Duncan Chapel Elementary since 2017. I started as a long-term substitute, and here I am getting my way to 2nd grade teacher. Duncan Chapel has been a tremendous help for me. I always said that my bachelor's is gonna have Paula Valencia and Duncan Chapel at the bottom. And then along the way, I got an email saying that Greenville County Schools were gonna do some kind of reimbursement if this was our first bachelor's. It was a lot, more than you expect. So if you see the email, apply for it because it's really good. I should be finishing December 2023. I'll be graduating with my teaching degree 2nd through 6th grade, and then I'll be a Blythe 2nd grade teacher. So I'm very excited, and here I am, just one step closer.
Another very important and long time established scholarship program through the South Carolina Department of Education intends to increase the number of highly qualified teachers serving the needs of students with disabilities. Full-time employees of a public school system are eligible. They may be seeking initial certification through a bachelor's or a master's degree, and certified teachers may be seeking add-on licensure through additional coursework to certify in a special education area. SC Create covers, as you will hear from someone in just a moment, tuition at the partner universities, as well as all textbooks and exams. Student teaching, which averages in these programs 60 days. They all must do that, and currently they take some leave time in order to make that happen. We are exploring in Greenville County Schools the idea that we would be able to continue the employment of these student teachers at their regular pay while they complete that student teaching. Currently under SC Create, folks who take that scholarship money and earn their degree commit to 3 years to a South Carolina public school. If indeed we are able to establish a way that supports them during that student teaching, they will commit 3 years to Greenville County schools. You'll see that 31 classified employees completed degrees and certification last school year. 20 of those were bachelor's degrees and initial teacher certification, and 11 were master's degrees to reach that initial certification. We have 15 currently employed instructional aides who are expected to student teach and to hire across the next 2 years. Whether it be GATE, SC Create, or tuition reimbursement, many of the candidates viable and ready for these opportunities are already in our classroom supporting students. So we call our internal recruiting class our currently employed classified personnel who have associate's degrees or bachelor's degrees. You'll see that an instructional aide or a clerk, you'll see the number of those who already have those degrees. And then we've got full-time substitutes in a similar situation. They might reach that path, that certification, through SC Create, GATE, or tuition reimbursement. We'd like you to hear from an SC Create teacher.
I was a secretary in special education, and one day my supervisor, Cheryl Johnson, sent me an email along with some other people about SC Create. And I kind of looked at the email and thought, no, I'm too old. I'm like 51, and this is like, what am I doing? And then she kind of came by my cubicle a couple of days and was like, I think you'd be really good at this. You should look into it. So I looked into it and went through the process of enrolling in that program. Tuition was paid in full. Textbooks were paid. During my time, I had to pay for my textbooks up front, and then I was reimbursed. And then they paid for the 3 practice exams that I had to take in order to become certified. So in essence, they paid for everything. I graduated with honors in December of 2018, and then transitioned into a teaching position that following January. I would say go for it. Age doesn't matter. Where you are in life does not matter. Just get your family on board, because that was huge for me to have my family support, and just do it.
For the past 6 years, Greenville County Schools has hosted 5th-year residents from Clemson University as they are earning their master's degree and in our classrooms. This year-round teacher residency is with an experienced master teacher. The co-teaching role begins at the very start of the year and leads to a lead teaching role by the end of the school year. The trained master teacher supports the resident through instructional coaching and coaching strategies and the wisdom of their experience. And these hosts are accomplished practitioners recognized as innovative and collaborative educators. The master teachers themselves, our veteran teachers, also go through training. They are in a course through Clemson. They take a summer institute with a group of folks across 6 districts where they learn to mentor and to further their coaching skills. And they are paid a stipend in their host year. Traditionally, our district has hosted 10 or more of these residents per year. We have a commitment for 26 residents to serve in our classrooms in 24-25. Note that these residents are in our schools. They are right there learning the culture of schools. Principals enjoy having these residents in their classrooms. They are a perfect recruiting class right there in the building. And when they go into, if they do, in that very building, they are already a part of that culture, and we know where their strengths are and where the opportunities for our support might lie. Furman University, for roughly 2 decades now, has had a teacher-to-teacher residency program. Full-year residency for a traditionally certified teacher education candidate takes place during their senior year. Many of us in this room remember a semester of student teaching. 60 days of student teaching even. But this is a full year residency during the senior year, along with a highly qualified teacher. They get weekly feedback and support from both the school and the university faculty. They assume full-time teaching responsibility by spring, and elementary candidates in this program may opt to add early childhood education. These candidates in their first year of teaching are considered to be in their internship year. They, of course, are teachers of record. They are the main teacher. They are full salary and benefits. District coaches trained by Furman provide over 90 hours of mentoring, observation, and individual support. Seminars on special topics and spring course on best practice are provided for them. And of course, they have the option to add certifications or a master's degree in literacy, special education, or to be teachers of English to students, to speakers of other languages. They, of course, receive a recommendation for initial certification, and they have their 1 year of teaching experience to their credit by the end of that internship year. Pending approval by the State Department of Education, we expect that very soon, we will be partnering with Anderson University under the new Grow Your Own Grant initiative through our State Department. We will be preparing elementary and early childhood teachers in this particular route. So our employees with seeking a master's or a non-traditional bachelor's degree would work with Anderson University in a blended delivery model. Much of this instruction on campus face-to-face. Again, they must have 2 years of college already if they're seeking that bachelor's degree, and they will be certified in elementary education with an early childhood add-on certificate. Unique to this particular program, participants will be employed by Greenville County Schools as instructional aides during the 2 years they complete their degree, and they will then enter as full-time teachers in that following year. And these teachers, again, make a 3-year commitment to our district. For 6 years, actually for 4 years now, we have provided praxis fee reimbursement to our employees who are adding certification. When the State Department changed their regulation to allow a teacher, many of our teachers, with a professional certificate to add an area by praxis exam, we began to reimburse them for a positive result on that praxis exam in order to support that choice. This lets those teachers become dually certified. They might switch content area assignments or move between school levels. You will see the areas in which they can certify that we support, and you'll see that since we began, 59 teachers have taken and been reimbursed for 62 praxis exams. Our district continues to support teachers as they enter our classrooms, whether it be through our mentor initiative, which serves each of them, or our coaching initiatives that do so as well. We continue with ongoing professional development across their employment, and those who choose to prepare themselves as leaders have a supported program path to do so. Our Impact Leadership cohorts began this past fall. We have a program called Impact Leadership GCS. This is half tuition assistance for a partner-selected cohort, 36 credit hours. They can achieve a master's degree or an ed specialist degree, certifying as a building level leader or a district level leader. Many of the courses in these cohorts are taught by Greenville County Schools leadership, open, of course, to professionally certified folks who don't already have certification in building leadership. It's easy to want to go get that EDS, but you don't go get it twice. We've got a lot of people to support here. A 3-year commitment, of course, to the district after certification. We have had 19 employees in this first cohort, and 20 will begin this fall. Share a bit about that program with you.
My name is Christopher Spence. I work at Channel Creek Elementary School, and I am the 3rd through 5th grade multi-categorical self-contained teacher. The Impact Leadership Program is the program that I'm in through Clemson University, Greenville County. They have some type of partnership where they have tuition reimbursement and tuition assistance for students seeking master's degrees in educational leadership. They cultivate leaders of their own, specifically in Greenville County, to raise them up, so to speak, and have them be the type of administrators that they are seeking in the district. To find out that through this program there would be tuition reimbursement, tuition assistance, was a complete game changer for me. And when I started, finding out, calculating how much I would pay versus how much the actual degree cost without the tuition assistance, definitely was a no-brainer. Special education has a soft spot in my heart. I love that, but I do see myself pursuing administration at the school level in the near future. Being able to stand out in the crowd when it does come time for me to become an AP or a principal, I can say that I went through the Impact Leadership Program. Definitely makes a difference.
Thank you, Karen. What I'm going to discuss now is the Teacher to School Counselor Pipeline. This is a new program that we're going to be kicking off this school year. I'm extremely excited about it. We're really fortunate to have a wonderful collaboration with Clemson University for this program. Just to give you an overview, this community collaboration for counselors is a partnership between Clemson University and Greenville County Schools. This was initiated by a grant from the U.S. Department of Education for around $5.8 million. It's a fully funded 2-year counselor education program leading to South Carolina certification for either a school counselor or either a school-based mental health counselor. What we're doing with this program, when we were selecting our candidates, we were targeting development of diverse candidates, male, disadvantaged, minority, and also our current teachers, our current educators that are living in the community of a high-need school. This cohort will have 12 counselors in each cohort over a span of 5 years, totaling 48 counselors across our district to be licensed. We also are extremely fortunate to partner with the Department of Education, the South Carolina Department of Mental Health, Call Me Mr., Hispanic Alliance, the Palmetto State School Counselor Association, and the Behavioral Alliance of South Carolina to ensure that we're providing as much support as we possibly can to have highly trained counselors enter into our schools. With this program, there will be a practicum and internships experience at high-needs schools. There's also going to be in-person classes. Some will be held at Clemson University's campus, and also some will be held at the campus here in Greenville. What we're going to do is they will have 60 credit hours. They'll have 18 courses, 4 semesters, and 2 summers spread out as they're going through their program. So basically, it's a 2-year program. They'll have content and fields experiences collaboratively developed by Clemson University and Greenville County Schools. And once they complete all of those requirements over 2 years, they'll have a Master in Education or Educational Specialist degree. They can choose to be, depending on the pipeline that they choose, either school counseling or school-based mental health counseling. They'll have their school counseling certification, and they'll have a clinical mental health counselor certification. And the school counselors will enter at the EDS pay rate. One thing a large thing that's wonderful about this grant is it covers full tuition, materials, exams, and certification fees, as well as the first $40,000 of a counselor's salary during year 2. Participating employees will retain their full pay throughout their full 2-year internship. In year one, they'll have 100 hours of school-based practicum at 2 school levels. And the reason why we're doing that is because we want to ensure that they're going to be K-12 certified. So they may be at an elementary school and also at a middle school, or at a middle school and at a middle school and a high school. That's just to ensure that once they finish the program, they'll be able to work at any of our schools from kindergarten to 12th grade. And just to go over how that process worked, this kicked off this past December, and we got the ball rolling in January with applicants throughout the district. Clemson said they had an overwhelming amount of applicants. They were extremely happy with our strong candidates from Greenville County. We identified those candidates for the Masters of Education Counseling program through an application process that initially started directly through Clemson University. Clemson University filtered through those applicants and let us know, hey, these are our top candidates. In total, we had 64 top candidates. Knowing that we can only choose 12 for the first year, we had what we did is we worked with Clemson to complete a multi-tiered application and interview process where we had professors from Clemson University, we had outside counselors that were able to come in, and also educators here in Greenville County to go through a round robin type interview process for all of those candidates. Throughout that interview process, we were able to choose 12 extremely strong current educators. During their first year, they're going to start the courses at Clemson. Actually, the first course begins in 2 weeks, 2 Tuesdays from now, so they're really excited about kicking off classes this summer. They'll remain in their current position wherever they currently are employed for this first year. In the second year, they'll transition to a school counselor role within Greenville County Schools. And at the end of their second year, they'll graduate from Clemson with a master's degree in education of counseling.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So we have a kind of a new program we've just started conversations with Clemson about, from aide to classroom teacher. Clemson being a great partner, you've heard their name multiple times come up with this. So this opportunity is for classroom aides currently in our schools, and really looking at how do we move them to an intermediate tier. So when we started looking at classroom aides, there's actually quite a few of our classroom aides that already have teaching certificates. They've just chosen to be an aide because of family situations, work situations, whatever the reason being. Many of them have teaching experience. They've just chosen a lesser role in the classroom as an aide, still a very valuable role that plays out in our younger grades in our special ed classrooms. So looking at a kind of an intermediate role between classroom aide and classroom teacher, kind of what we're calling right now at least a classroom assistant, that would actually take on a little bit more responsibility with students. Some of our aides do this already naturally, particularly more of those ones that were experienced teachers, so that's natural to them. They may be pulling small groups, doing a little tutoring, but looking at those aides that might be, say, you know, I would like to take on a little bit bigger role in the classroom, but not really want to be a classroom teacher right now. So this would be an intermediate position where they would actually be trained specifically through coursework on intervening with students, most likely right now in literacy and math, where they could pull small groups of students for math tutoring, math intervention, or small groups of students for ELA intervention as well, and reading, just to be able to help that classroom teacher out with the needs of the students. And then after that, we hope that some of those aides actually will want to become classroom, if they're not already, have a degree, to become classroom teachers. And so there will be a path that we're working on with Clemson right now, that those courses they took to become that classroom assistant, those courses actually would count towards a full teaching degree if they chose to go that route. They also could explore, of course, many of the other options that was mentioned earlier today by Karen and Candace and Elizabeth, but this would be another specific path they could do that in the interim will help us as well in our younger classrooms, our K and kindergarten classrooms, specifically in our special ed classrooms, where we can get a little bit more assistance for students from the teacher aide or classroom assistance level. And then finally, probably one of the newer initiatives that Greenville started several years ago, and we're kind of expanding this and releasing this as a repackaged, if you will, initiative is under the Future Teacher Academy. Most of you are familiar with Expressway to Tigertown. Expressway to Tigertown would fall under the Future Teacher Academy. We're just expanding this a little bit more due to the success of it and really our need for getting students interested early. We talked about all these career changers, but really what we'd ultimately like to do is grab them in high school and get them interested in education so they don't have to change careers later. They're just going through and getting their teaching degree and moving right into our system. So Future Teacher Academy is really a programming to engage our students in a teaching field and expose them to those opportunities. The first class really is an exposure. It is just, are you interested in teaching? Just like you may do with any other career field you might be interested in. Just to see, is this something the students might have a knack for or be interested in long term? And you'll see here in a second, it really is a learning progression. It moves through from just real broad overview, getting down to specifically actually working with students to see if this is something they're interested in as a career. So the overview of the courses in a Teacher Academy, the Future Teacher Academy. One of these, several of this is new as of this coming school year. We've not had all of this in place. We just finished this work with Clemson. Many of you know Rachel Turner at Malden High School. Rachel will actually be coordinating this program half-time for us next year. She'll be teaching still in the Future Teacher Academy at Malden High School, but then part-time she will also be working for us to expand this in all of our high schools. We technically right now have in about 3 high schools, including Malden, but will be expanding this to all 15 high schools with that expectation by, I believe it's 24, 25. So the very first course is that World of Education. That is an honors level course that students can take. Again, that's your introduction to course. It would be just like Introduction to Engineering, Introduction to Architecture. It literally is that field of education course. Are you interested? Here's what education's about. The second course, we're talking the second course, but really it has an option for 2 courses. Experiencing Education is what the tag is for that year. That ED 1400 class is 2 credits, and the ED 4380 is 1 credit. That 4380 is a practicum course. The ED 1400 is similar to what most of you or some of you might know as Teacher Cadet. We're not doing Teacher Cadet anymore. We've moved away into this with Clemson University, this ED 1400 class, but it's very much like Teacher Cadet, a little bit more in depth as far as, again, from the World of Education, big broad overview. Think you're interested, you move into the Experience Education course, ED 1400, and that's going to give you the opportunity to go into the schools. And then what we found from the students is in this course, the students actually want to spend more time in schools. And so we added, as a result of that feedback from students, we add that ED 4380 class, which is basically just a full semester of being in a school with a teacher, tutoring students, working with students, learning the education profession. They do get dual credit for that. That is critically important because they're already starting to build their college transcript at this point, and hopefully go into the Expressway to Tigertown is where we hope the students will go. And then preparing for education, the ED 2400, that course is, I know Dr. Stiles has participated in that course as well as myself and many of the district leaders. That really is the course where students are moving into education. 90% of them in the past couple years have moved directly from that course into education. If you're committed to this course, you are committed to education. They are spending at least 60 hours in the classroom. Many of our students spend way more than 60 hours. They continue to go even after the course is over to work with their teacher, their cooperating teacher, if you will, in the classroom. And then after that, we hope that they'll move into Expressway to Tigertown. That course 3 really is their senior year. But we're hoping they're probably at least by course 2, we're hoping they've committed to Expressway to Tigertown, which is the Clemson program we'll talk about in a second, or another college program. We are in the process right now. We've identified pretty much all the public universities around the state of South Carolina, and we'll be working with them to build a similar articulation agreement, if you will, so the kids who choose USC might want to move from this same course, but instead of going to Expressway to Tigertown, they would go into a USC program very similarly this Expressway to Tigertown. The benefit of that is, of course, is that it's less years in college. They actually get most of their credit, a lot of their credits in high school, and then they can have a shorter amount of time in college, and we'll talk about that in a second. So just to give you a little bit of an overview, is that this course here, the first year, this will only be offered, I believe, at Malden High School. We're still working with 1 or 2 other schools that might be offering this this coming year as well. But this is that introduction course. So the World of Education is a broad exposure to education. Speakers from all areas, again, even some of our board members who have been principals and teachers will be asked to participate in this to give our students a broad sense of education of all aspects. They do take some field trips to get that real world glimpse into education. What does that look like? And they do some project-based activities to really immerse the students and give them more knowledge about education. They know from the student's perspective, but now giving them some perspective as a teacher, what that looks like as well. And then our course 2, you can see that this really, this is a sampling at this point of early childhood through secondary. One of the reasons we do this is because some students think sometimes they only want to do kindergarten, and then they get in the middle school classroom and they love it. And so we try to give them a sample of all grades K through 12, even though they give them some experience, and hopefully they maybe they'll be dual certified. So this has some special education knowledge and instruction in it as well, to try to encourage students to go into special ed. And then they get some experience building curriculum lessons, what teachers are actually going to do every day. They get experience building curriculum and building lessons. And this one, they have a field experience of 10 to 20 hours. Optionally, they can take this course 2B the following semester. The first one's a fall semester. This is your junior year typically. And then your 2B, if you choose to, you still get 1 credit hour of college credit for this. They actually do a 60-hour field practicum experience. So they are now assigned to one of those areas of interest. They can technically do 2. They can do 30 and 30. So they could do 30 with a special ed teacher in elementary school and then do 30 with a math teacher in middle school if they choose to. If they say, you know, I'm not sure which one I want to do yet, we can give them experience in both as well. And then finally, preparing for education at 12th grade course, typically. This is a 3-hour college course. This is a professional development for a chosen field. So we offer that professional development to those teachers. They participate much like our teachers do in professional development, and some of them actually join our teachers in professional development. And then looking at what those opportunities are for employment in GCS. We really start hitting them hard now about once you go off to college and you get your teaching degree, you need to come back and teach for us. We want to continue to stay in contact with them and encourage them to come back and teach for us versus another district. And then 60-hour field practicum. So again, if you can see if they've taken both of these courses, that 2B and that preparing for education, that's 120 hours that they would have spent in the classroom with students, with teachers, which actually is many times more than most of us back in the day when we went through teacher prep programs got actually. So they're getting a tremendous amount of classroom experience at this point. So again, if we want them to hopefully move an expressway to Tigertown, this is a high school dual enrollment courses through Greenville Tech. We're very fortunate to have partnered with Greenville Tech and Clemson University for this initiative. Ideally, they're getting 15 hours of credits. That is negotiable. Some will get more, some will get a little less. Some kind of enter this program in 10th grade, and so they may miss out on a few dual credit opportunities. So it's flexible. We can work with them. Ideally, we would like them to earn an associate's degree by the time they graduate high school. Now, again, if they don't, we can work with it. But ideally, that's our goal. And then they will take their coursework at Greenville Technical College, moving out of high school, and then they will move, the big benefit here for those who try to get into Clemson, children try to get into Clemson, one of the biggest benefits here is it's auto acceptance to Clemson as long as they have the GPA required to move into Clemson. So if they go into this program, it's auto acceptance to Clemson University through this path. You can see there on the chart what that looks like. We're really starting in middle school trying to advocate for the education career. 10th through 12th grade, they're doing their dual credit classes. They will do, if they get that 15 to 18 hours, they'll only have to do 1 year at Greenville Technical College, and then they will do 2 years at Clemson University. So really 3 years of college, 1 year Greenville Tech, 2 years Clemson, they have their bachelor's degree. Many will stay for that one optional year, and they will earn their master's degree, so they'll come out of really what most of us did in 4 years for bachelor's. They will do 4 years and have a master's. And so I think a lot of our students will be moving to that direction today, because again, immediate pay bump coming out, you're starting well above, above the first year bachelor's degree teacher. So there's obviously some salary implications there as well. That's just a bigger blown up version of that. Again, Greenville Tech Clemson has been amazing to work with for kids who may come in and only have 9 dual credit opportunities coming out of high school. They will work and customize a path with summer options. So some kids may just go more in the summertime to make up some of those options. And then some of you, I believe, were at, or you probably may have seen this video. This was our first, really, this year was our first official Expressway to Tigertown graduates, the 2 students who actually have committed to Expressway to Tigertown. So this was their signing day at Malden High School.
I want to welcome you to Malden High School as we have a wonderful opportunity to celebrate.
This is the first step to something amazing. This is the Expressway to Tigertown. We are giving them a path to complete their first year in college here. Then they're going to Greenville Tech for 1 year, automatic acceptance to Clemson, and then finishing in 2 years with a master's degree in 3 years.
And then be able, we certainly hope, to welcome them back here where they can sign something similar in just a few years to commit to teach in Greenville County schools.
This partnership will accelerate our students' pathway into the classroom, and more importantly, it'll do it in an affordable way, saving our graduates thousands of dollars in tuition costs.
As you all know, state of South Carolina needs teachers, and we have worked collaboratively to create processes and programs that will allow our state to not only be provided with teachers, but exceptionally well-prepared teachers.
Big congratulations to Caroline and Hunter.
I'm excited for the acceleration of the program because I'm ready to get in the classroom, and I'm excited to go to Clemson. I think it's a wonderful school, lots of pressure taken off that I know I'll get in.
Here in a few years, I'll look back and be like, wow, I was part of something. I was the first one of something pretty big, so I'm looking forward to it, see where it goes.
So Caroline and Hunter are not related. They just happen to both have the same last name. They are not related. Always the question.
I want to welcome.
And so as we're looking at this initiative, this one we just talked about, the Future Teacher Academy, I think one of the biggest benefits of this, I just spent a day with superintendents from around the country, and this was probably one of the most asked about initiatives because it's kind of unique. Most of us, if you've heard, a lot of districts around the country start with what you just heard. But for Greenville to start an initiative like this, and as you heard over and over, our college partnerships, that is not existent in every district. And there's a lot of districts who struggle to get college partnerships up and running. Expressway to Tigertown really happened. That initiative happened with Clemson and Greenville Tech in about 18 months, which is really unheard of from a college level. The red tape we had to work through, but Clemson was extremely committed to it as Greenville Tech was. And so we can't say enough about our college partners and how committed they are to working with us and helping with us. We will stay in connection with the one thing after the Future Teacher Academy. Once they graduate, we have benchmarks and things that we will do their first year of college, second year of college, third year of college. Dr. Stiles and Dr. Presley attended our Future Teacher Academy banquet we had in May. That was really a celebration of some scholarships that they awarded and the students who completed that ED 2400 class, all of them moving into education, not all in Expressway to Tigertown, but all of them moving into education in some college, not necessarily even in South Carolina, but around the country. But the goal is over 4 years is that we're really staying in touch with them so that they want to come back to Greenville County schools and teach. And again, hopefully not go somewhere else and teach, but we want to keep them here in our own hometown. So at this point, I think we have open to questions if there are any.
Mr. McCoy, I have a whole busload of grandchildren I'm gonna put on that expressway to Tigertown. You don't know how much money you just saved me today. I love it. Thank you for your presentation. Thank the staff and everybody that participated. I'm going to go to Mrs. Linda Leventis Wells first. She texted me with the question, so I guess she's online somewhere.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Well, first of all, this was an excellent presentation. I was very impressed with all the opportunities we're offering so many people at all ages. My question, Mr. McCoy, is when these people get into our program, are they immediately, are they compensated for their years of experience when they decide to go into education after they get their degrees or before they get their final degree?
I'm going to let Dr. Royster start that. answer.
But right now, the only group that we compensate for years of experience outside education are career and technical education teachers. And they get one-to-one experience for their years in business and industry that are directly related to the subject they're teaching in the Career Center or in the high school.
Okay, but after they receive their degrees, are they compensated? You know, like when we go into education and we're teaching at a higher ed, like if we're teaching at Greenville Tech, we can petition to the state to give us, you know, however many years we've been teaching at Tech, and that would go towards our teaching certificate or years of teaching. Do we do anything like that later on?
We have not to this point done that with people that have lateral entry. In other words, they were in some other occupation and then moved to us other than career and technical. Now, it is true that you can request of the State Department, if you taught at the college level, whether that's technical college, two-year college level, or four-year college level, you can request the state consider your teaching experience, and I have known them to add that to your teaching certificate. But right now, these people would be issued a teaching certificate with their first year that would have 0 years experience on it. Now, if they have a master's degree, they go on the master's salary schedule. If they have a four-year degree, they go on the four-year bachelor's degree schedule.
Yes, sir. Well, first of all, I think it's a great opportunity. I've had so many people interested in going that were in a different career setting and want to go into education. And I'm going to tell you, Greenville County School District has given so many different opportunities to take advantage of all of these programs. I mean, when you think about the counseling, special needs, et cetera, the list goes on. And I love that we've partnered with so many institutes to get our students and our future teachers an opportunity to reduce their cost of tuition. This was really one of my favorite presentations. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Linda LaVentus Wells. Next, Ms. Debbie Bush.
Thank you. I'm going to have to agree with my colleague, Ms. LaVentus Wells. This is one of my favorite presentations. It didn't start out that way because those first couple of slides were just extremely, that was just devastating when you looked at the bad news across the country and the shortage that we've faced and that we will be facing. But boy, then did y'all ever turn the story around? This has just been, this has been phenomenal, and kudos, big thanks to all the ones that put the presentation together. But putting a presentation together is hard work, but not nearly as much hard work as what it took to get this information to us and to coordinate all these programs. And the best part, you could have given us all this data. It was such great data and such great information of all the hard work that's going on. But what spoke volumes, and please go back and tell those people that participated, were those teachers that you give an example in every single program, seeing how excited they were and how thankful they were, and how, I mean, it's just, it was just phenomenal to see these teachers that we know that are in classrooms or that are going to be in classrooms, and our investment in all of these is just incredible. I think probably the one that I'm most excited about is the one that where we grab those high school students and being able to see how this has progressed over the last few years. And now hearing that we're spreading the word, because I was excited when we started this at Malden, and now that we've gotten to this point, some of my questions: what are the 3 high schools that we are currently in?
So the PART pathway is in East Side and Wade Hampton. almost all of our high schools have some course in that progression, but as far as the full progression course, we work more with Eastside, Wade Hampton. The goal of Rachel being part-time next year, though, will be that we will, by the end of next year, going into the 24-25 school year, will be that we will have that full pathway in every high school.
That is so exciting. That is truly exciting. So what other colleges are we partners with that, because I'm thinking more in that Northwest area, Travelers Rest, Blue Ridge, Berea, that they might be more prone to go, like North Greenville, Furman, something like that. So are we working on those parts, which I realize apparently we're, now that you give us that information, that we're so unique across the country in establishing those relationships. But you know, we can't be happy. We just want more and more and more. So
yeah, I think we'll have probably some college and district superintendents visit us this fall who want to bring their college partners to talk with Clemson and Greenville Tech to see how they got that started, how we were able to pull that off with them. We have a large list of pretty much all the colleges around the state. Public colleges initially, we do have some of the privates on there we'll talk to as well, because they can certainly, it's just a matter of getting articulation agreements. The public colleges are a little bit easier because there's certain courses they have to take. As far as articulation agreements, there's like now 100 and something courses they have to take. Majority of those are ones we offer in our high school, so they automatically transfer those colleges. When working with Furman, North Greenville, Bob Jones, those kinds of colleges, we just have to work that out with them to see, will they take those credits for our students, so that our students know up front all of these transfer in, or only 6 of 12 will transfer in. We just have to work that out with them.
Great. And I see in here one of the key things that I think that potential is reaching those students much the same way we do in our technical schools, going to our middle school students and their parents, and making those parents, at that time you think, well, isn't this a little bit early? But making sure that they realize that some of the people in my community would realize in middle school all of the opportunities that are open to their child. Let's go ahead, like you said, don't miss out on those 9th grade courses. If this is a pathway that you would be interested in taking, because that's one of those professions that, you set up the baby dolls when you're 6 years old, and that's your lifelong dream. I want to be a teacher, and so there's no doubt, and we want to make sure that those parents. So I think that is really key in making sure that we approach and know that those opportunities, that you don't have to wait till you're a junior in high school to start heading down that path, and how much money this will save our parents too, our parents and our graduates. So thank you very much. Please pass on my thanks to all those in the trenches that are working so hard every day to make this happen. This is just phenomenal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bush. Dr. Stiles.
Mr. McCoy, thank you. That was excellent. And I would just like to say to our district staff and to our superintendent, I appreciate you for seeing the need that we needed to expand the teacher pipeline. That's been coming for some time. And working some at the state, I know a lot of districts have not began that effort yet. So I appreciate our team for being pace setters. And this was really, really impressive, and it was very proactive. So I thank you for that. I also wanted to speak to the future teacher academy there at Malden. I was most thankful to be involved in that and to see some of the students, to see their senior projects, and also feel their passion for education, to be involved in that. That was a wonderful experience to me. Ms. Turner is just doing amazing work there. And I feel like with her enthusiasm and her passion, that we certainly have the great potential to grow and expand the program. And I'd like to really encourage that as a district, that model. It seems to be excellent. Also, I wanted to speak to the colleges. I'm very appreciative to Clemson, Furman, Anderson, all the colleges who are working with us to expand the teacher pipeline. I think that's wonderful. The networks are great. Also wanted to speak for my former alma mater, Erskine University, and they are also working on a program. And I have had some discussions with them about exactly their program, how that's going to work. If they wanted to share their model and perhaps get involved, what would be the first step for them to do that?
They're welcome to reach out to me. I'm working with several colleges that have similar models of some sort, so they're welcome to reach out to me. They're on our list anyway, already to reach out to.
Great.
So we haven't made contact yet. So, but if they want to reach out to me, they're welcome to.
That sounds great. Well, I can see this really expanding to a lot of universities, and I guess one problem might be one day we have to decide how we're going to reel it all in, because a lot of people are interested in this. So thank you so much. I'm very excited about it. Of course, I love the teaching profession, and I want to see it grow and flourish, and I think this is a great avenue. So thank you to you and your team. And Dr. Royster, thank you so much for being proactive and for making our school district a pace setter in our state, and maybe even nationally in this effort. So thank you.
And Dr. Stiles, as a side note, I was at Malden the day after you were there, and one of the students told me you asked very hard questions about her presentation. I didn't mention those presentations, but they really do. Ms. Turner really asks those of us who go in to review the students' presentations as they're presenting to really give them some very critical feedback. And I think it does make an impression on the students. They are very well prepared for that, but one of them sought me out to make sure I knew that the former principal from the day before asked a lot of difficult questions about her presentation.
Well, I have that reputation sometimes. And I would just also say that there's such enthusiasm I feel on the board for this, that maybe perhaps on one of our future field trips that we maybe plan a trip to Malden and let everybody experience what we have had, and Dr. Presley, what we've had the opportunity to experience. I think the board would really, truly enjoy it.
Thank you, Dr. Stiles. Mrs. Michelle Goodwin-Caldwell.
Thank you for this presentation. All I can say is hallelujah. When I came back and talked with Dr. Royster about what we saw at the COSPA National Conference with the state of Arkansas, their Grow Their Own program. And I was so excited. I came back and I told Dr. Russell, I said, we need to look into something like this. But, and I love that we are doing this, the Future Teacher Academy. But one of my questions is, because when in their Grow Their Own program, in order to bring them back to the area, they gave them incentives. Are we looking into, because I know whenever we did the graduation, you know, I always asked them what's next, and a lot of them said they were going into teacher education. They were going to be teachers. But do we have, are we going to try to get some incentives to hopefully they come back to the area? I know we're getting them into teacher education, and we don't know where they would go, but we need incentives to make that, to help them come back to us. And it's good that we are, you know, doing the dual credit, and I know the parents are looking at that like, yeah, saving money for college, and of course the student loan debt and all of that. So are we gonna look into something like that, maybe for the future? Dr. Royster.
Well, right now, and you mentioned it already, the big incentive, particularly on this the Future Teacher Academy, is what we're able to offer with Greenville Tech, and that's basically between us and Greenville Tech. You can get 2 years worth for free. For certain students, then at least at the Clemson part of this, they have some money in the college ahead. We've not put any money or made a recommendation to you all to appropriate general fund money at this point for any particular incentives. What we have recommended to you all, which you all certainly acted on within the last week, was to continue to be a pace setter in our state for starting teacher pay. so that when we're talking to teachers about coming here, then we are extremely competitive with starting teacher pay. And right now, that's kind of where we have continued to focus our efforts. We may going forward in future budget years look at some recommendation for some bonus to sign for people that came through our system. But right now, the draw that we're trying to make sure we fund as significantly as we can is starting teacher pay. And of course, we don't yet know how that's fallen out in the state. We believe we're pretty well positioned to stay in the top 3 or 4 based on the action you all took. Right now, we think that's the greatest financial incentive that we can have that really cuts across all of these things. So it doesn't matter where you came from if you started with us. One thing that we do know, and they didn't put these statistics in there, I'm sure we can go out and pull them. Research will generally show that where people do their student teaching or their internship is where they prefer to come back to, unless they have some draw. Maybe it's family, maybe it's a spouse or a potential spouse. But usually if you can get students in your schools to do their student teaching or do their internship, they are much more inclined to come back to that school if offered the opportunity to do so. So the more students we can get through as many universities as we can get them to do their practicum experiences in Greenville County, the greater the likelihood we have of them returning to us as a teacher. Principals prefer to hire them, and they generally prefer to work where they did that, because they already know that. They're already familiar with the school, the culture. They already feel like they're a part of that faculty.
Well, I know in that Grow Your Own program in Arkansas, they had the legislatures on board. Have we thought about, well, that's another subject for another day.
Well, I think to that point, it might well dovetail, and Dr. Stiles was a part of that task force at the state level. It might dovetail with some of the things that they have suggested at the state level, where perhaps the state would take on this model. It's already set up. All you got to do is replicate it. Really, and Jeff alluded to it, the hard work of this was done like in an 18-month window, which in higher ed is like the speed of light. They do not generally do things quickly. But it required the College of Ed's full support. Well, we certainly had that going into it with Dean Peterson. But they also had to work with the financial aid people. They had to work with the admissions people. They had to work with a provost office. They had to do all these things, and they had to get it approved by CHE, the Commission on Higher Education. The Greenville Tech component has to be approved by the Commission on Higher Education. All that's done. Any technical college in this state can now replicate this. Any university in this state can now replicate this without as much red tape or paperwork or however you want to describe it, or bureaucracy, as it took to get it in the first place. So it could become, it's a statewide model. It simply needs people in those institutions to say, we want to do this as well. That's all it takes. Now, the technical colleges are limited. For example, Greenville Tech, they cannot take students from other technical college areas and put them through Greenville Tech. But Tri-County Tech could do it. Spartanburg's not called Spartanburg Tech, it's called Spartanburg Community College, but it is the technical college that serves Spartanburg and Cherokee County. The tech college that serves the Greenwood area, I believe that's Piedmont Tech. Doesn't matter where, Trident Tech, Midlands Tech, all they got to do is sign on to it and work out articulation between the school districts that they serve, the technical college, and whichever universities they want to articulate with. The blueprint's already there.
I'm glad to see that, because some of our college prep courses and stuff, they don't prepare them for the real world, for coming out here into our districts. So I'm glad to see that. Maybe they can change up some of that stuff in the college prep courses. I also have a question on the add-on certification. Do they get more money for adding on certification? When you had something in here about the add-on through the praxis, are they compensated for getting another add-on certification to their certificate?
Only in that we pay for the praxis. We don't provide them any additional compensation. It does expand their ability. For example, if they wish to be considered for a transfer or to go to a different school, the more things you're certified in, the greater your marketability is within the system. But we don't currently pay for any add-on certifications, nor based on the number of original certifications you have.
Okay. Well, thank you for this presentation. I was just so excited about the Grow Your Own, and I'm glad that we're doing it. But thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell. Mrs. Mosley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I echo the sentiments of all of my colleagues. I'm coming off vacation, so I'm not quite as eloquent today. I will just say ditto. Excellent presentation, great information. And I just have a couple of questions that are just sort of random. Going back to GATE, I listened to the teacher say that she learned about it by surfing our website, looking at our employment. How else do we make, because obviously these are non-educators that are wanting to or maybe thinking about, or maybe they've never thought about a job in education, but we're wanting them to think about that. So how do we get that information out, or what type of job fairs do we take that information to?
So during the hiring season, which is getting longer and longer as the cohorts get bigger, we open the pools in the fall and we run information sessions. So we publish that schedule on the Greenville County website, so they have access to those. We have lots of folks who come and inquire and just learn about the program, the possibility. We also, in our area, do billboards, and we get a lot of inquiries based on, someone just drives by and sees, oh, I think I want to learn some more. And we usually time those so that an information session follows the week that the billboard is running. But I would say I'm hearing more and more, like Bennett said, it's word of mouth. It's folks who are in the program telling other folks, hey, this is a great opportunity. If you've ever thought about teaching, you should do GATE. Or I have principals call or email and say, hey, I think I have this candidate, would you take a look at the transcripts, or, get in touch with them. We also have folks who come who might not know about GATE. Maybe they are approved for PACE. They interview with the principal, and sometimes our principals are like, are you aware of GATE? We really offer a lot of support. If you're going to teach in Greenville County, we really offer a lot of support. So I think a lot of it is just as the word gets out, and people are having good experiences, they're talking about it, and we're getting a lot of interest that way.
So going back to those areas of need, and I was so happy when special education was added to that list a year or two ago. Where are we seeing the most, I assume you track this, are we getting the most folks who are interested in math, or most folks who are because I know those are high areas of need, maybe more so than some of these other ones, so.
For GATE specifically, I would say we get the most applicants, believe it or not, in special ed.
Okay.
It is a newer area, so we're getting a lot of applicants in special ed. Early childhood and elementary are pretty close. I don't have the specific numbers, but just based on what I've seen while working in the pools, social studies pulls in a lot of people. Math continues to have the fewest number of applicants, but we usually hire everyone that is qualified.
So that was my last question. What is our biggest need out of those categories?
I would say, math, science, and special ed
are still our top three.
Historically, it can. I'm just it is continuing to trend in that way.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering that. My last question, I think, is going all the way down to the special ed, oh my goodness, I believe it's, sorry, I lost my place.
SC Create.
Yes. The classroom aid to classroom teacher pipeline.
Oh, that one.
That's right, that one. Well, it kind of is the SC Create
Yeah.
too. So, thank you. So, starting with SC Create, if I'm understanding correctly, you have to be a current employee to be eligible for that tuition assistance or
We're
program.
talking SC Create now.
Yeah, SC Create, sorry.
Yes.
I went backwards.
SC Create is a scholarship program and it is only available to public school employees.
Okay.
So you must be currently employed.
So then jump ahead to from aide to classroom teacher. Would those employees be eligible for that?
SC Create actually is a partnership with a program in a higher ed institution.
Okay.
And so they would follow that full path through SC Create. They may have begun in the program that Jeff's working on right now,
okay,
where we're working with that, but they wouldn't be doing, they wouldn't necessarily be doing that through Clemson. Their path could be similar.
Okay. So Jeff, this program you're working on now, has it been implemented or you're still in the
No, so we are still in
figuring
the we've met with the Clemson University staff multiple times. So we are still in the process of looking at which courses, how many courses, building that path out. So we've met maybe, I believe 3 times we've met already. This would most likely be a program we would be looking to implement in 24, 25.
Okay.
There's a version of this at Arizona State and the Mesa School District. And we actually had some folks go out there and look at it. And the last time the large countywide schools consortium met, we met in Mesa, and I went out and looked at it. There were some things about that program that were good. There were a lot of things that didn't meet our needs. So we've worked with Clemson on how to tailor what Arizona State was doing with Mesa to better align with what we need to do for teacher preparation. And I think they had some access to federal funds to help fund this at Arizona State. They have that same access at Clemson. So they're working with us to try to tailor this. What we saw out there, we did not believe was intensive enough in the classroom as to what was expected of those assistants. They really weren't any more than what we think of as being an actual classroom aide. So what we're working with Clemson on right now is how can we make the classroom assistant part of this more rigorous? Because if you walked in those classrooms out there like we did, and you saw those, you would think, well, they're just doing the same thing an aide always does. So it wasn't getting us to that level of preparation we felt like we needed. If we can work all that out, I suspect that too would be something people will replicate.
Okay. I think you touched on where I'm going, so that's what I was wanting, a little bit more differentiation between an aide versus an assistant. And the only reason I say that is because I know what an aide is. I've been there, done that. I was told constantly when my oldest son was younger and he had a para, for example, I was told constantly that I could not ask questions to the para because they were not a trained educator.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to always go through the teacher for those types of questions. So if I'm understanding you correctly, this assistant role in your mind is probably someone that it's gone through more rigorous process, to use your word, and to whom someone could ask educational questions to.
There would be with this one that we're working with Clemson University, they would be officially trained in certain strategies. So, for example, reading is the one we focus in heavily right now with them, because that's one of our biggest, struggles sometimes, both in special ed, but also just in general ed. And so, there's certainly be questions that aide, that classroom assistant, would be able to attribute to with remediation. The classroom teacher is still responsible, obviously, for the instruction, but this classroom aide would actually be certified, trained, if you will, and we're working on certificate. We're working on even can we do a certification of some sort for a classroom assistant. So I'm working with Clemson on that, and ultimately the State Department will work with that. But to your point, this would be we're not sure if it's going to be 6 or 9 yet, but we're working on, like, is it going to be 6 credits or 9 credits worth of courses for a classroom assistant to be able to be trained?
They would be doing like academic work with, or remediation work or whatever with an actual student versus an aide really doesn't do that, correct?
Not most of them, no.
We have some aides, to the point Jeff made earlier in the presentation. We have some aides that have teaching certificates. They just choose to be an aide.
Right.
Certainly they could speak as a knowledgeable professional, but that's not all of them. And parents don't necessarily know which ones have that training and which ones don't. An important part of this training would be, here are things you can speak to. Here are other things you need to defer to the teacher. Okay. Good, because you don't have that level of expertise. One parallel that you might consider as you think about it this way, a similar model, but this being on the undergraduate level, in college, they'll have graduate assistants that are actually doing in some cases, all the teaching. This is sort of like a undergraduate assistant doing some of the teaching under the direction of the actual certified teacher. That might be kind of a similar model to think about.
Okay, that's a great analogy. So then, one of the things I hear most often when it comes to special education, especially in recent years, is the class size ratio, teacher ratio. Do we feel like this will improve? Because I know we ask a lot of our teachers, but in particular our special ed teachers, because so many of those students need every single one of them has an individual plan, and so many of them need smaller group or one-on-one instruction, or their specialized instruction. So I guess I'm just wondering, does that change the dynamic of the classroom when you have, because I'm assuming we still have aides in the classroom that are doing just aide work. Does this add another body to the classroom?
That's the way that the current model looks. What we couldn't see was any decision. If you saw the aide in that room,
right,
and you saw the classroom assistant, you would not be able to tell them apart.
Right.
So we're looking for a differentiation there. Now, there might be a few more students in the class, but not the number that would warrant having another teacher in there. But yes, you'd have another body in that class. You still have an aide there, and you'd have a classroom assistant. The way they had theirs done, there were, Jeff, four teachers, 2 assistants,
a few student teachers,
and also some student teachers. Now, most of the ones we saw, the ones I saw, other people saw more because they went to the different schools, were actually regular or gen ed classrooms. They were regular classrooms that would not have ordinarily had an assistant of any kind in them. So we're looking at this as a model with special ed, but also with regular ed, where they would ordinarily not have any kind of at grade levels where you wouldn't have an assistant, not kindergarten or pre-K. Okay. We're looking at all of those different variations because we need all those people. I mean, we listed up there in GATE. But if you look at the State Department now, there's no subject that's not considered critical needs. For the longest time, early childhood, there were still plenty of early childhood graduates. There were still plenty of PE graduates. Both of those are now critical needs areas. I don't think there is a teaching area now that's not considered critical needs.
Okay, so if I understood you correctly, just to make sure, you're saying that if we get something like this implemented, a classroom assistant could be not just for a special education classroom, but a general education classroom that might be able to provide some support to students who have, to that teacher who has a room full of IEPs to address potentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
We're not limiting this to looking at and we probably didn't make that clear. We're not limiting this to looking at classes where there are already aides in those classrooms.
Okay.
We would certainly do it there as well, but we'd look at other classrooms. And again, that's the model that we saw. The issue we had with it was the rigor of the assistant position.
And if I might, Ms. Mosley, that's one of the reasons we're still discussing the number of credits, because one of the things we've talked about is, do we need do those classroom assistants need a course on special education, with some strategies to support, to your point, the general education students who have IEPs, or special ed students who are into general education IEPs, because I do think that's critical, because they're going to be, if they're remediating and reading, there's going to be some students with special ed or with disabilities in there.
Jeff, listen, I love the idea. I pulled my son out of 4th grade because he was in a class of 27 students with a phenomenal teacher, but because she was so phenomenal, as we have seen, we sometimes give those teachers
large numbers,
a larger share of higher need students
yeah.
or students that need those services. And so I think about what we ask of teachers every day. I've seen it with my own 2 children that struggle or that needed that extra support. And so I am all about looking at outside the box ways of supporting our existing teachers, because I think I think all this trickles down to teacher retention and not burnout and all of that stuff that the whole reason we have these alternative pathways. So anyway, thank you so much. I think I'm good. Thank you, Ms. Morrison-Fair.
Thank you, Ms. Mosley. Dr. Presley.
Great presentation, y'all. A couple of just quick points. The students in the Malden program also ask really hard questions. I spent a morning with them earlier in the spring, and they lit me up about 3728, curricular transparency, the potential impact that's going to have on the education field. We went round and round. I broke a sweat in that classroom with them. That is such a positive, y'all, that's being presented to them so early, because I didn't know how to advocate as a teacher, especially a young teacher. We didn't know it was coming until it came through the doors of the school and splashed all over us, whatever legislation was happening. So that is a phenomenal program, and I'm super excited to watch that grow. Our Alt-Cert program in Greenville, I love the fact that I can say our, because I'm home now. When y'all started that, I was down in Columbia, and I heard it anecdotally in a room. Did you hear what Greenville's up to? And I just sat there and I said, well, of course they are. That's not surprising at all. The growth in the numbers is absolutely phenomenal. One of the things that I think, and this was shared in the presentation, that is a game changer is that coaching, that 5-person coaching model. When I was a PACE instructor up here in Region 1 years ago, we had 5 regions around the state, and the participants would go back to their and there was this disconnect. So we would wave bye to them, and then they were treading water for the rest of the time. And the research bears out for a lot of first-year, second-year teachers, that loneliness, that isolation, that lack of feeling that they're not supported is one of the reasons that they leave us. This is a homegrown program, and I think the numbers are going to continue to bear out. That's going to be another thing that is going to be huge, and it will set a model nationally. So looking forward to that, and we will certainly help to spread the word about that beyond billboards and everything else that you guys are doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Presley. At this time, we will extend for, I have 2 more speakers, 3 more speakers, I think. At least 2 more speakers. We will extend for 10 minutes. All right. We will extend for 10 minutes without any objection. Next, Dr. Stiles.
Thank you. I just wanted to add one thing. It's such a great model and so innovative and so proactive. I feel like the communication piece must be there to show our state, to show, again, nationally, to show what we're doing in Greenville County. And I was just thinking I love the billboard idea, some of the things you suggested. I was also thinking about a great media release that we could send out to multimedia to share what we're doing to increase the teacher pipeline. And I thought about places like Talk Magazine, who professionals in other professions like enjoy that magazine, where we could maybe get something publicized there. Facebook, Instagram, using some of these students and putting that out on Facebook and Instagram, I think would be excellent. And also adults who are going into the pipeline who have been in other professions, getting something out there where everybody can enjoy it. I know I like to look at Greenville Facebook. It's lots of fun, and I think those would be great stories. Also, I wanted to talk about the transition from teacher, aide, assistant to teacher. I think that is very powerful, and I think that's been an untapped area for many, many years. I say that as a former principal. And I also wanted to encourage our district staff and Dr. Royster to encourage our principals to sometimes just tap one of those assistants and say, wow, you've got great skill. You know, sometimes I forget you're not a second teacher. You know, great assistants, they are second teachers, regardless of whether or not they have the certification. So sometimes I think that our assistants, they don't think that's a possibility. But sometimes when they hear someone encourage them and say, look, you'd be a great teacher, sometimes that makes the difference. Right? So I'd like to really encourage that. And another barrier that I see for assistants and aides is, you know, many of them feel like they have to continue in their job because they are dependent on the salary. So some of them have fear that if they step out and try to continue their certification to become a classroom teacher, that they will lose their position or they will lose their salary if they take a leave to do their student teaching. I think that's a gap area for us in this particular area. And I'd just like to say, I know we just went through the budget process, but as a board member, I would like for us to think for the future that if we're going to really encourage this path, which I think is tremendous and has great potential, I think we need to really look at funding, continuing to fund these assistants and aides salaries so that they can go forward with this. I don't know what the discussion is at the district about that currently. Could have you discussed that piece, and could you give us a glimpse into your thinking about that?
And the least expensive way to do that is to get the colleges to agree for their practicum, their student teaching, to be done while they're being paid to be an aide in that classroom. And we have that commitment from one institution.
Yes.
Jeff? Is that right? But that's the key to it. That doesn't cost anybody any extra. And they can still get the experience they need to have. It makes no sense that colleges would not agree to that. Like I said, we have that commitment from one. We have gotten commitment, this is somewhat related but not exactly the same, to now allow students doing their practice, their student teaching, to be paid when the teacher's absent. And we got that from how many institutions now?
One right now.
One right now. So, which is because now if the teacher you're doing your student teaching with is out, well, we have the student teacher do the class because they know the class better than anybody else, and they're already teaching it anyway. So now they've relaxed at least that, which that never made any sense to me. Why wouldn't you be able to pay them just because they're doing their practicum? Right now, their practicum costs them money because they have to travel to do it. They're not getting any compensation. So we're trying to work through what would be to us makes sense that it's not an added cost to us. Right. We're supposed to pay a substitute in there anyway. So why shouldn't they draw sub pay? Why shouldn't that aide be able to continue to be an aide in the setting we put them in and let that count as their practicum?
I think that's an excellent idea, and what a great thought. And, you know, if we could make that a prerequisite of these universities that we choose to work with, that would handle that across the board. So excellent, Dr. Royster. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's an excellent pathway forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stiles. Ms. Middleton.
Thank you. Good presentation. I have a few questions that are, I think, more clarification than anything. On the GATE program, is it possible, maybe down the road, to consider, it says that you have to have a bachelor's degree or higher? How about if you're working in industry, you know, and you're working in a lab or something like that, and you may not have an actual bachelor's degree, but you have a comparable certification, and maybe could someone like that be considered for, say, a science teacher or a math teacher?
Dr. Moore can speak to that again. Some of these programs like GATE does have to go through state approval, so there's some state requirements around that, but Dr. Moore can speak to the flexibility.
Yeah, currently all alternative certification programs in the state require at least a bachelor's degree to enter.
Now, that's for regular teacher certification. We do have teachers, career and technical, some of whom have no degree past a high school diploma, but they qualify based on their work experience. So when you think of that, you might think of machine tool, auto body, auto mechanics. They have certain certifications related to the subject they're teaching, and they come in having passed an exam. They come in at a master's degree pay level, but that's a state certification program. It used to be called T&I, Trade and Industry. They don't call it that anymore. There's a new term for it, but it's lateral entry solely based on work experience. But the state does not at this point do that with anything that would be considered a core academic subject for which you would normally have a 4-year degree. Our route for that would be, we're looking at these, taking people that have a 2-year degree and working them towards a 4-year degree in teacher education.
If they do have other degrees, do they still have to take the praxis for some of these more career type, the praxis exam in order to become certified if they want to, say, teach, I don't know, some things in the medical field? Like, don't we have some medical courses and things?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. The academic areas require a praxis exam.
Also, just in terms of clarification, in the courses like the Tiger Town and all that, when they're doing some of the stuff with Greenville Tech and they transfer their credits, I'm sure they have to have a certain grade, and I guess it would be understood the GPA does not transfer to the college. So you're going in with just the credits, but you don't get the, I guess, the benefit if you get like an A. That would not, the GPA itself would not actually transfer.
They, no, the GPA, they start earning that GPA on their college transcript. The Greenville Tech, so if they fail, that's why we're very careful, because if they fail courses, they start college with a negative or a 0 on their GPA if they fail courses. So those GPAs do count just like they do when they're running dual credit courses.
That articulation with Clemson requires a minimum GPA for them to get automatic acceptance. So you have to take the courses prescribed, and I don't remember what the GPA is. Jeff may know.
2.8, I believe.
And have maintained and we'll send it to you just to make sure we're not telling you the wrong number, to have maintained a 2.8. If you do those things, you get automatic acceptance. Dual credits, when you're with us, when you're still a high school student, you don't get college credit unless you make a C or better. So unlike freshman year, if you're actually taking a freshman class in college, you can make a D. You can make as many D's as I guess they'll tolerate. They got a minimum they got depending on the college, they got a minimum GPA. You can't go below that. But for our students taking dual credit, they have to have a C or higher, or they don't get the college credit part of it. They only get the high school credit.
They get the college credit, but they don't get the GPA, the actual.
Not on our dual credit. They will look at the GPA on the transcript. But when they go to Greenville Tech and they're taking this year, if it's a year or whatever at Greenville Tech, that will transfer to their college.
I forgot your other question, I'm sorry.
As far as their entry.
You have another question? Did you ask me something?
Maybe. Well, let me see. Certification. Well, the thing I was, their actual grade, like if they get an A, would that factor into their GPA at Clemson?
Their Greenville Tech stuff they do, yes. They're
Just the Greenville Tech.
correct.
Oh, of course, but it is Greenville
It's
Tech.
Greenville
So they
Tech.
would get, like, that A would go into their GPA, which
Correct.
is very fortuitous because
Absolutely.
in your freshman year, those are some of the more basic courses. And if you
Yes.
can get an A in those, then when you get into the more difficult courses, that helps your GPA overall.
Correct. And many of our students are going, it's not uncommon for our students to enter college with their freshman year complete. We're working on increasing the numbers where students are entering in the college with their associate's degree, going in as a junior. So, the goal is to get as many dual credit classes under us that are free and start earning that transcript.
How many teachers are we actually down teachers right now?
You mean as far as vacancies go?
Yeah.
Mrs. Clements, sorry, forgot your name. Mrs. Clements can speak to the current vacancies that we have right now.
So the last number that I looked at with Ms. Spivey, we were at 245 vacancies. However, that changes, and I know that number has since changed because it moves quickly this time of year with positions being filled. This time last year, we were at 284 vacancies at this time, and so trending a bit ahead of where we were last year, but still with candidates in the pool and more candidates contacting Greenville County Schools regarding our teach positions. So it is difficult, of course, a very difficult recruiting environment, but we're staying positive and moving forward.
We have 245 vacancies, and we hope that by the next year, we will fill them all. If we don't fill them, what do we do?
So 245 was the last number that was reported. That has since, I'm sure, changed, but somewhere close to that number. So of course, the goal is always to fill as many of our teaching vacancies, fill all of our teaching vacancies. Then if for whatever reason there is something that is not filled, we work together with the schools, with the district team to make sure that the student need is covered.
Through substitute teachers or that type of thing?
It could be through substitute teachers, through supplemental positions that those folks could be in a classroom and we could provide additional coverage for the supplement, whatever the need may be. But yes, our first priority is to make sure that the student-facing positions are covered.
So we never have classrooms that have no teachers?
It would never be the goal to have a classroom with no teacher. We would make sure that we have someone in there with the students to deliver the education.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Middleton. I think I have one more question, but I'll extend for 3 minutes without any objection. I can't believe we ate that 10 minutes up. Okay, Mrs. Goodwin-Caldwell.
I only have one question because I asked about the add-on certification for the praxis. If the State Department of Education, there he is. If the State Department of Education is allowing us to do the add-on certification for the praxis, have we made any leeway with them on just requiring the content area for praxis for the ones that are coming out of college? Because we have so many that can't pass the praxis because they might be getting it in English and they have to take the math praxis and they can't pass it. Are we making any leeway in that? Do you know, Bert?
I don't think there's been a recent discussion about that. Jeff, have you heard anything?
Not aware.
That came up a few years ago, and the State Department pretty committed to praxis testing requirement. Now, you should only have to take it in the area where you're seeking certification, isn't that right?
But that's not the case, though, right?
So Karen said it's in the task force recommendations from the state level.
Yay! Because a lot of our college students
To
coming
eliminate that
out
completely.
can't
Dr. Stiles
pass
may
the
want to speak to that
praxis in
since
order
she's
for
on
them to
that task
teach.
force.
That would be a whole big pipeline of kids if they only have to take the praxis for the content area that they want to be certified in. Okay, I just wanted to bring that up. I get on my soapbox sometime. All right, thank you.
Want to speak to that?
No, Karen is right, and we're looking, the task force is looking at lots of avenues to support entry, and that's just one of many. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions and your interest. Thank you for this presentation. I am happy that we support our teachers in so many different areas, and I love the pipeline that we are creating for the future for Greenville County. I'll turn this back over now to Mrs. Bush. Almost finished. Okay. All right then. Section 302, innovative course approval. Let me see. Mr. McCoy, that's you again. Dr. Royster, did you have any comments on that?
No, I'll defer to Mr. McCoy. He has the
Okay.
specifics on them.
So you have, this is a reminder, we usually do these course approvals in February and October. We had something come up from the State Department that forced us to do it a little bit out of order with this. So we went ahead and are bringing forward to you others that were in the queue that we were planning on doing in October that we're just going to go ahead and clear out of the queue at this point since we have to bring you these. The first two there, the Accelerate program, pre-engineering, those are the two courses. We've been offering those at JL Mann's Accelerate program. They're originally as part of the state catalog. The state has removed them from the state catalog and told local boards they needed to approve them individually now. So we are now bringing these, again, been offering them, states endorses them, state still endorses them. It's just that they have to go through local board approval. So, and those are at the honors level as well. So the honors rubric has applied. Criminal law, and family law, those were in the queue for October. So those are just two, we had CP levels of those. We're just moving those, as again, requested the honors level after our teachers have gone through the honors rubric and created an honors course for those. And then emerging automotive research 1 and 2 honors. These also were a little delayed. The State Department actually had to approve the CP level of those courses for our new innovation center. So we were waiting on State Department approval for CP level, which they have approved. And then once the CP level is approved, then we could create the honors level courses. So that was a little late getting State Department approval. So it passed our February deadline for courses, which is why we're bringing these two to you at this point in time.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the local board courses as presented.
Second. Okay, I have a motion and a second on the table. Any discussion? No discussion, then we'll move to all of those in favor. Please let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed, and the motion is approved. Thank you very much, and I will turn it back over to Ms. Bush.
Thank you. Thank you. Such a great wealth of information this morning. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Stiles for our administration portion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our first matter of business in administration is item 4.1, Champions for Public Education nomination. The purpose of this award is to recognize community residents, organizations, or local businesses or industries whose support and contributions to public education have significantly benefited the entire school district or public schools statewide. Dr. Royster, would you like to speak to this item before I turn it? Oh, he just stepped out?
He went to get Mr.
Okay,
Cyrus.
so I'm going to turn the floor over to Mrs. Morrison-Fair.
Thank you, Dr. Stiles, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Sellers when he comes back. But as I travel across the state, I'm so very impressed with the quality of participants from the community that we have nominated that have made a very significant part in all of our districts across South Carolina. But as I travel across the state, no one has ever nominated or even suggested the students. Greenville County, I don't know if this is unique or not, but we have a group of students that Every year, they are phenomenal with Spirit Week. And those funds go to help all types of organizations in Greenville County. So I thought it would be a good idea to recommend these students, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Sellers so he can speak a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Glenda. I'm sorry I was late coming back in. I was trying to put a work-related fire out. As Ms. Morrison-Fair mentioned, rarely do we see a student body at any level recognized for the work that they do in regards, and we're using Spirit Week as an example. This last year, the vast majority of our high schools in Greenville County had a Spirit Week of some kind, raising a dollar amount at whatever appropriate level for a charity that their students selected. Now, the approach with this is, this shows leadership, not only at the school level, but it shows leadership from the school to the community. And so you're looking at the worth that they bring to the table from the value of financial resources that they provide, in many cases, nonprofits who are rarely known about. These kids pick the nonprofit themselves every year, and it's generally somebody that many of us have never heard of. And that in itself shows a compassion and a capacity for making that type of a decision. But it also sets what we believe is a strong balance of leadership and interconnectivity between that school and the community that they're serving. And so Glenda and I had a conversation not too long ago about what if. So instead of picking a school or 2 or 3 schools, so for example, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, between Wade Hampton, Eastside, Man, and Riverside, or Man and Greenville. Those 4 schools by themselves raised almost a little over $1 million this past school year. Now, other schools in the county have done Spirit Weeks, not to that level. Fine. Their community did what they could support. But when you throw all of that together in one collective mix, the amount of support that they have provided the community from their high school student body, we can't see it matched anywhere in the state. In the research that we've done, no other school district has had that level of financial participation and leadership from the students to support the community, ... Now, in full transparency, if we approve the recommendation, which we're funneling through Inter-High Council, okay, there's the possibility that we will have to replicate the award physically. The state of South Carolina will only give us so much as far as the little award goes. So if they select this, and I think they would be hard pressed not to, because I've sat on this committee before, we may have to replicate it so every school that did something during this past school year gets something for their school trophy case. So they're in full transparency in this decision, in this conversation. That could take place. We'll ask the state association to cover them all, and maybe they'll do it. But if they don't, I just want the board to understand, and the administration, we may come back saying, can we replicate, the little palm tree thing or the palmetto tree that they give. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers. And again, I want to emphasize that as Mr. Sellers and I talked about this, I appreciate his expertise in working in that area that he does, and he pretty much knew how to put it all together so that it would be equitable across the board. I really appreciate his helping me get this idea across. At this point in time, we need a motion, someone to give a motion.
It's coming. Go right ahead, ladies first.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the nomination of Greenville County High Schools for the SCSBA's Champions for Public Education Award.
And I'll second the motion.
I'd like to speak to the motion.
Yes, Ms. Leventis Wells, go right ahead.
You know, I appreciate Mr. Saylors and Ms. Linda Marson Fair bringing this to the forefront. This originated years and years and years ago when Brody Bricker, who was the principal at Eastside and had also been at Wade Hampton as an assistant principal. He and Wade Hampton principal got together so they could reunite both high schools to better focus their, I guess, energy, instead of on rivalry, to doing the betterment for our community. And from that point on, that's where Spirit Week took off and started focusing on giving to all of the nonprofits, whether it was cancer, whether it was tutoring programs, whatever the situation was. And I commend y'all for noticing and appreciating and bringing this statewide, and maybe other schools will follow what we have been successful in our high schools doing for our communities throughout Greenville County as well as the state. So I commend you and thank you so much for doing this, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Dr. Stiles.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question, comment, or concern? Okay, Ms. Mosley.
I don't usually talk to this, but as the parent of high school students that have gone through Spirit Week, my daughter being on student government, and I know how much these kids pour in, at every school, pour into making their Spirit Week successful and supporting their charities, and the joy that they have when they have the big check reveal is enormous because of how much it unites the school for that 1 week, really, because, you know, high school can be a little tough these days. So I am thrilled to support this nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, discussion? I just want to say, there we go again, being a pacemaker. And I too believe that this is something that could spread across our state. It's very positive, and I'd like to thank Ms. Morrison Fair and Mr. Saylors for bringing this forward. Hearing no further questions, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Our next matter of business is agenda item 4.02, revision of board policy GBRIC, personal leaves and absences, parental leave. Dr. Royster, would you like to speak to this item?
Thank you, Dr. Stiles. Mr. Webb has provided for you a draft revision to policy GBRIC, which would set the framework for us to put into place administrative rule to implement the parental leave that the legislature passed 3 weeks ago in the last few weeks of their regular session. Certainly, Mr. Webb, answer any question you might have about the policy.
Okay, we have a recommended motion from administration to approve the revisions to board policy GBRIC as presented. Do we have a maker of the motion? Oh, I'm sorry. You have, go right ahead.
This is just.
Do you mind if we make the motion first?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, let's do that first, and then we'll have discussion. Okay. All right. Do we have a maker of the motion?
Motion to approve the revisions of board policy GBRIC as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Doolin.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry. Linda's not in the room, she cannot make a motion or second.
I'm sorry.
So you gotta have somebody else second the motion.
Okay, we have Mrs. Doolin made the motion, and Ms. Goodwin Caldwell second. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion on this topic? Ms. Middleton?
Thank you. My only just question, I guess, is there any consideration for the parental leave when someone leaves, say, for a year or 6 months? Does that delay their retirement time, or does it delay any other things of that nature that would have to be put in the policy so there would be an awareness of that?
The short answer to that is anytime anybody's considering a leave, they need to do two things. They need to talk to the State Department of Education about whether or not it will affect the years of experience on their certificate. There are a certain number of days you have to work in a year. I believe it's 152.
That's right.
Morgan. If you don't work 152 days, you don't get credit for that year on your certificate. There's also a certain amount you have to work to get a year's credit in the retirement system. And there's not a blanket answer really to either of those two. So in fact, one of the things in here you'll see underlined is employees are encouraged to contact the State Department of Education to determine the impact of unpaid parental leave service on their certificates. Paid leave, probably not going to be an issue, but unpaid leave certainly would be. Those are individual questions they need to ask to make sure they know all the impact of the decision they're making.
The reason why I asked that is, as many of you know, I was in the FBI, and I took off 6 months when I had my twins, and I didn't realize that it did actually delay the time when I was eligible to retire, and it also delayed all my step increases by that 6 months. So instead of getting them on the date when I came in, I got them 6 months later, which was fine because I was on unpaid leave, which was my decision. But I'm just wondering if that should be in the policy so that people understand that that is part of, that's part of it.
Generally speaking, that's why the notes in there about Department of Ed to inquire about to them. Generally speaking, if you're on paid leave, as far as your retirement, the retirement system doesn't know whether you're there or not. That your contributions being made is coming out of your check. Our contributions being made on your behalf. As long as you're on our payroll and that retirement contribution is being submitted, then the retirement system is going to count that for a year's credit. Where it becomes, generally speaking, an impact would be if you're not being paid and that contribution is not being made, or if you've not taught 152 days as far as your teaching experience goes. Again, that's why that note's in there about contacting the SDE on the teacher certification.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions? Okay, hearing no other commentary, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries. Madam Chair, this concludes the administrative section, and I will turn the meeting back over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Stoss. The next item on our agenda this morning is the building and grounds, and I will turn that over to Ms. Dillon.
Thank you. I'm filling in for Ms. Leventis Wells. First item is facilities project report. Dr. Royster.
Thank you, Ms. Dillon. You have that in your packet. One item I do need to draw your attention to, because I believe it was updated last night, Colonel Carlin, regarding painting.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
You will see some TBDs beside some of the painting projects. It's because we have a bid, protest to the bid for those projects. And that protest period has not run or been resolved yet.
That's correct.
The rest of it, certainly any question you all might have, I'll be glad to answer those. And I don't believe there are any other changes in those projects. Everything else is on time as scheduled other than the painting.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Sailors?
Scott, just out of curiosity, when there's a protest, that means the work does not take place, so are they going to be able to complete it after the protest period has been accomplished or reached?
I know that procurement's in conversation with the contractor right now to make sure that he is still willing to perform the work that we have the TBDs, but also what kind of schedule can we work with him that if it cannot all be completed by the time school lets out, how we accomplish areas after school lets back in.
So if we had to accelerate the schedule, that's on him, not us, because he's the one protesting the work, correct?
No, sir. The one who we believe will be awarded the work is not the one protesting in this case. There were a number of protests associated with this.
Okay.
Which is,
Par for the course.
what, no, on painting, it's actually pretty unusual.
I'm not aware of one that we've had within the last at least 10 years here.
Not unusual in some other contracts, but pretty unusual with a paint contract.
Two things related to East Side, if I could. Occupancy for the weight room has already been reached, or are they still waiting to get keys?
Believe it or not, we're still waiting on the HVAC unit for the weight room at East Side.
Imagine that.
So that they can get in, they can climatize the inside and complete the finishes inside.
Right. You don't want to put that floor down, and I understand. Okay. During the graduation season, I was approached by two members of the SIC at the high school asking about the status of canopies for the bus loop. That apparently that is an issue.
At which school?
East Side, still at East Side High School.
I'm not aware of this issue.
Can we look into that? Because apparently there was, as it was explained to me, that there was a request for, there is still a continuation of a concern there about kids parking across the street at the church and the safety of their passage across Brushy Creek. And that apparently there's been a request to evaluate a piece of ground that is contiguous to the parking lot on the school property. And someone with staff was supposed to be evaluating that to see if that was feasible and affordable.
We've actually requested, I have Mr. Stanfield to review the parking at every high school in the district, the capacity of the existing parking lot, the ratio of the capacity of the existing parking lot to the current enrollment of the school.
Okay.
And the number of students on a waiting list at that school. And waiting lists for parking spaces. So factoring the three things together to establish a priority for looking at what solutions might exist. For a number of those schools, there is no on-site space. East Side is one where there is potentially some on-site space, but we've asked them to do that in preparation for the coming year's long-range facility plan, so that we might rank order those to try to maintain equity across all 15 high schools as to the capacity of their parking lots relative to the enrollment of the schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Carlin.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Thank you. Just a few really quick questions, because as I was reading this last night, I thought, oh, I do want to ask these questions. Greer High School will have a tennis court and track. Those are resurfacing. Is that this summer?
At Greer, let me see. We have tennis courts at Greer this summer, correct? And track renewal, that's correct, both of those.
And the roof too?
And the roof, yes, ma'am.
Great. Now, painting at Oakview, is that also this summer? And what is the painting? Is it inside, just some rooms, or?
That'll largely include the entire school, certainly in the interior and any exterior areas that require painting.
And that will be done this summer?
That is one that is under the TBD.
Oh, TBD.
So pending the resolution of the protests, we will be working with the contractor to see how much he can accomplish or he or she can accomplish during the summer, and then what provisions we might make after the school year starts to complete what is not completed during the summer.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Just as a note, any of the painting projects you see that appear in this, they're whole school projects. Any single classrooms, office area, media center, something like that, small area, That's just a routine maintenance project. They would not appear in here.
With no other questions or comments, thank you. We'll move on to 5.02. Naming of Greer High School Alumni Room. Dr. Royster, do you want to speak about this?
Certainly, Ms. Dillon. If you'll note in your packet of information, there is a letter from Justin Ledley, the principal at Greer High School. There is a letter from the SIC parent representative at Greer High School, and a letter from the PTSA president at Greer High School, and a letter from the Greer High School Athletic Booster Club, all of which have the common goal of recommending that the board consider the naming of the alumni room at Greer High School in honor of Pat Suddeth. Many of you know Coach Suddeth. He served 20 years on this body. He served the entirety of his professional career in the service of students of Greenville County Schools, specifically in the Greer area. Started as a teacher and a coach, became an administrator, served as a principal at Greer High at one point in his career. He's a graduate of Greer High School, and a name is very synonymous with education in the Greer community, and most particularly at Greer High School. So we certainly recommend for your consideration the naming of the alumni room at Greer High School in honor of Coach Suddeth.
Thank you. Wow. As the current, I'm sorry.
Someone needs to make a motion before, are you making a motion about it?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the naming of the, Greer High School Alumni Room in the name of Pat Suddeth.
Second motion.
If you want to speak, please go ahead.
As the current District 18 representative, which is largely the Greer area, I am pleased to support the naming of the alumni room at Greer High School after Pat Suddeth. Obviously, from what we've all talked about, his name is synonymous with Greer. Everything in Greer is a Suddeth, okay? So he is an amazing person. His great dedication and personal involvement with the Greer community is obviously very evident. I've heard so many people speak highly of him. I've talked to many people in the Greer area, and everyone knows him, and they don't know me, and they're like, where is Pat? And I'm so honored to have followed him, to be following him now. Of course, this is a wonderful recognition. Pat has been, as the superintendent mentioned, has been a teacher, a coach, an assistant principal, and a principal at Greer High School. He's been a trustee for 20 years, making very important decisions that positively affect all our schools. I'm also so proud to say that he is served our country in the Marine Corps, and he was sent overseas in that capacity. And I am very proud to just have this opportunity to speak on his behalf for even just a moment. And I'm very happy that this room will be named in his honor.
Yes, I too want to say that I am very excited that this has been brought forward. Having served with Mr. Suddeth for those 20 years, he was always very diligent in his work on the board. He always asked great questions. He always had a passion for public education, and he always shared that experience as having been in so many different arenas of public education, of whether it was a teacher, a coach, a assistant principal, or a principal. And I will forever miss his he was always the person I can remember that raised his hand last, because he said, you know, if I'm quiet long enough, everyone else will ask all the great questions. So he was always the last one to raise his hand to ask questions, and I'll always have such great memories of that. And he would always preface it with, now, Dr. Royster, let me understand. do I understand now? So, I am very pleased that this recommendation had, and I am excited to support this. Thank you.
Okay, then all those in favor,
I have
please.
a quick question, just a quick statement.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
Dr. Royster, I'm just wondering if some of the lettering on that dedication should be in cursive writing.
If Mr. Suddeth gets to choose, it will.
I just think that would make his day, because his that was his thing at almost every board meeting, and I just want to make sure that we honor his memory, because he was quite a man. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Linda. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Bush.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, we adjourn the committee of the whole.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. And remember, we have a meeting immediately following.
Do you want to gavel in that recess?
Okay, so we stand adjourned, but I'm going to go ahead for personnel matters and legal consultation.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Just make sure he's ready. All right. All right, we were in executive session. No decision or vote has been taken. We are now back in open session.
Madam Chairman.
Mr. Sailors.
I'd like to move to authorize the administration to enter into an agreement with the law firm of Bannister, White, and Stalvey to represent the school district of Greenville County in the social media multi-district litigation.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we will go back into executive session. Do I need a vote to go back? No. Yes. Yeah, because we came out. All right.
I'll make a motion, we go back into executive session.
For?
Personnel issues. That's what it was.
Legal and personnel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Evaluation.
Doug, you grinning, what are you gonna say?
Yeah, if you need legal advice as to the self-assessment document and process, then I can provide that in there.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. We will go into executive session.